Girl saved unwanted dog from euthanasia. What happened next is incredible. The shelter was eerily quiet that evening, the kind of silence that felt heavy, filled with the unspoken fate of the animals left behind. Emily Walker had never planned to visit that day. A storm had delayed her bus home, and seeking shelter, she found herself stepping into the small, dimly lit rescue centre. Rows of cages lined the walls, each housing a hopeful face, but one in particular caught her eye. Curled in the back of a rusting metal kennel was a dog unlike any she had ever seen. His fur was matted, his ribs visible beneath patches of dirt, and his deep brown eyes held something that sent a pang through Emily's chest. Resignation. A small sign on the kennel read, "A Bruno. Scheduled for euthanasia. Tomorrow." Emily's breath hitched. Tomorrow, this dog had only hours left. "Why him?" she asked softly, turning to the older volunteer who had just set down a food bowl. "He's been returned three times," the woman sighed. "Aggressive, they say, untrainable. No one wants him." Emily crouched near the bars, ignoring the musty scent of the shelter. "Hey there, Bruno," she whispered. He lifted his head slightly but did not move closer. A part of her knew it was crazy. She wasn't looking for a pet. Her tiny apartment barely fit her, and her job as a waitress barely covered rent. But something about him, the quiet sadness in his gaze, made her decision before she even realized it. "I'll take him," she said firmly. The volunteer's eyes widened. "You sure, hon?" Emily nodded. "Yes." "He deserves a chance." The first few weeks were rough. Bruno didn't trust her. He cowered in corners, flinched at sudden movements, and refused to eat unless Emily was at a safe distance. He didn't bark, didn't wag his tail, just existed as if waiting for another disappointment. One night, as Emily sat on the floor beside his bed, exhaustion creeping into her bones, she whispered, "I know people have let you down, but I won't." For the first time, Bruno lifted his head and looked at her, not past her, not through her, but at her. It was a small thing, but it was something. Days turned to weeks. Small victories came. Bruno taking food from her hand, curling near her feet as she read, even wagging his tail at the sound of her voice. But the world wasn't as forgiving. One evening, while walking in the park, a jogger passed too close. Bruno tensed, let out a low growl, and before Emily could react, the man stumbled back, eyes wide with fear. "Control your dog," he snapped. Emily's face burned with embarrassment. People stared. A mother pulled her child closer. Tears welled in her eyes as she knelt beside Bruno. "You're not a bad dog," she murmured. "You just need someone to believe in you." One crisp morning, as Emily and Bruno walked near the coffee shop where she worked, a commotion broke out ahead. A man in a dark hoodie was sprinting from the cafe, clutching a woman's purse. Emily barely had time to react before Bruno did something she never expected. He lunged forward, barking for the first time since she'd known him. His deep, commanding voice startled the fleeing thief, who stumbled just long enough for a bystander to intervene. The purse was returned, the police were called, and Bruno was a hero. The news spread quickly. The cafe owner insisted on giving Emily free coffee for a year. A local reporter wrote an article, "Unwanted Dog Saves the Day." The shelter that once deemed him unfit reached out, astonished at his transformation. But the biggest surprise came a week later. A woman knocked on Emily's door. She was in her 60s, with silver-streaked hair and kind eyes. "I read about Bruno in the paper," she said, voice thick with emotion. I think he was my husband's dog." The woman explained that her husband, a retired veteran, had rescued Bruno as a puppy. They had been inseparable until her husband passed suddenly. Grief-stricken, she had struggled to care for Bruno, and in her pain, had made the heartbreaking decision to surrender him. Tears welled in her eyes. "I never stopped thinking about him." Emily looked at Bruno, who, for the first time in months, stepped forward voluntarily, resting his head against the woman's leg. A silent understanding passed between them. The decision wasn't easy, but Emily knew what she had to do. "Would you like to take him home?" she asked softly. The woman sobbed, nodding. Yes, if he wants to." The goodbye was hard, but Emily knew it was right. She had given him what he needed. Love, trust, a second chance. A month later, she received a letter. "Dear Emily, Bruno is thriving. He sleeps in his old spot by the fireplace, just like he used to. But I want you to know something. You didn't just save him. You saved me too." Emily wiped away a tear, smiling. Sometimes saving a life isn't just about rescuing. It's about believing, and that belief, that changes everything.